Hello, and welcome to another episode of They Did What Now. Our podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more, depending on where you like to hear your podcast. There are 27 states that have the death penalty, as well as the U.S. government and the U.S. military. The U.S. military only has 4 inmates on death row, and they have not executed anyone since the death penalty was reinstated in the 1970s. There are 2,553 inmates on death row as of October 1st, 2020. Some sources say 2,557. That number can be higher or lower as of today. My guess of the reason why there is a discrepancy of 4 is how states like to count their death row inmates. Meaning, if a death sentence is vacated, that either that inmate is still being counted as a death row inmate, or they're not being counted, awaiting to see if they will get another death sentence or if they will get life. So that's my guess on why there is discrepancy, depending on what source you're looking at. There's been 1,534 executions since 1976. The latest execution was June 30th, 2021, out of the state of Texas. There has been 185 exonerations since 1973. Texas has had the most exonerations at 30. Today, we're going to talk about Zane Michael Floyd, who is on death row in Nevada for a mass murder he committed in 1999. So before dawn on June 3rd, 1999, Zane Floyd called an escort service and asked the operator to send a female escort to his parents' home in Las Vegas, where he had been living since his discharge from the U.S. Marine Corps the previous year. An escort is a person who accompanies another person to a social event. They do not have sex. If they have sex, then that's prostitution. When a 21-year-old woman sent by the service arrived around 3:30 a.m., Floyd threatened her with a shotgun and forced her to engage in vaginal and anal intercourse, digital penetration, and oral sex. At one point, he removed a shell from a shotgun, showed it to her, telling her that her name was on it. He later put on Marine Corps camouflage uniform and told her that he planned to kill the first 19 people he saw that morning. Commenting that he would have already shot her had he had a smaller gun on him, he told the woman she had 1 minute to run before he would shoot her, and she ran from the apartment. Floyd then left his apartment at 5 a.m. and walked about 15 minutes to an Albertsons supermarket near his home. The store's security cameras captured the following events. Immediately after entering the store, he shot Thomas Michael Darnell in the back, killing him. After that, he shot and killed 2 more people, Carlos Chuck Leos and Dennis Troy Sargent. Floyd then encountered Zachary T. Eminger, who attempted to flee. Floyd chased him and shot him twice. Floyd then leaned over to him and said, "Yeah, you're dead," but Zachary survived. Floyd then went to the rear of the store where he shot Lucille Alice Tarantino in the head and killed her. As Floyd walked out of the front store, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, or LVMPD, officers were waiting for him. He went back in the store for a few seconds and then came out again, pointing the shotgun at his own head. After a police officer spoke with him for several minutes, Floyd put the gun down, was taken into custody, and admitted to officers that he had shot the people in the store. Before trial, defense counsel retained a clinical neuropsychologist to conduct a full examination of Floyd. The doctor concluded that Floyd suffered from ADHD and polysubstance abuse, but that he showed no clear evidence of chronic neuropsychological dysfunction. The doctor also diagnosed Floyd with a personality disorder that included paranoid, schizoid, and antisocial features. Defense counsel was discouraged by the doctor's findings and turned to a different clinical neuropsychologist. The second doctor was highly critical of the first doctor's work, questioning the validity of the tests that the doctor had conducted. The defense counsel unendorsed the first doctor as an expert, but not before the state trial court ordered it to provide the prosecution a copy of the doctor's report along with the associated raw testing data. Defense counsel also retained a clinical psychologist and retired Navy officer who investigated and described in detail Floyd's background and life story. Floyd's mother told the doctor that she had used drugs and alcohol heavily earlier in her life, including when she was pregnant with her first child, but that she stopped drinking and all drug use when she found herself pregnant with Floyd, but continued to smoke tobacco. It was also learned of an incident in which Floyd, at the age of 8, was accused of anally penetrating a 3-year-old boy. The doctor further learned that Floyd began using drugs and alcohol extensively in high school. The doctor describes Floyd's Marine Corps deployment to the U.S. base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, as difficult, explaining that Floyd struggled with the stress and boredom of the deployment and drank extremely heavily during that period. Defense counsel originally named the doctor as an expert, but did not call him at trial and never disclosed his report to the prosecution. At the guilt phase of Floyd's trial, the jury convicted him of 4 counts of first-degree murder with the use of a deadly weapon, 1 count of attempted murder with the use of a deadly weapon, 1 count of attempted murder with the use of a deadly weapon, 1 count of burglary while in possession of a firearm, 1 count of first-degree kidnapping with the use of a deadly weapon, and 4 counts of sexual assault with the use of a deadly weapon. During closing arguments of the penalty phase, defense counsel argued the jury to refrain from that a death sentence was warranted. The mitigating factors defense counsel relied on in closing includes Floyd's difficult childhood, his alcohol and substance abuse, his stressful military service, his ADHD, and his mother's substance abuse while she was pregnant with him. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury sentenced Floyd to death, finding the aggravating factors to outweigh the mitigating evidence. Now the appeals. On March 13, 2002, the Supreme Court of Nevada affirmed his conviction and death sentence. The Supreme Court of the United States denied his petition of writ of certiorari on February 24, 2003, meaning they did not want to hear his case. Floyd then filed a writ of habeas corpus, to which the state trial court denied, and the Nevada Supreme Court affirmed the denial on January 11, 2006. The United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit affirmed the Nevada Supreme Court's decision on February 3rd, 2020. So where is Zane Michael Floyd today? Zane Michael Floyd has an execution date the week of July 6, 2021. But not an exact date, just the week of. So he is currently serving his death sentence at Ely State Prison in Ely, Nevada. On May 10, 2021, prosecutors moved his execution date from the week of June 7th to the week of July 26th. Floyd is appealing and fighting his lethal injection, and he was granted a stay of execution until October 25th, 2021. However, the state of Nevada is appealing that. So as of right now, he will not be executed in July of 2021. So again, he's at Ely State Prison in Nevada. And just another last minute thing about Nevada's death penalty is that the Nevada Assembly recently approved a bill that would get rid of the death penalty and convert sentences for anyone on death row in Nevada. But the governor said he would not sign the bill because he believes some crimes deserve the death penalty. Okay, and that is Zane Michael Floyd. If you have any questions, you can submit them in the chat, or you can email us at theydidwhatnowpodcast@gmail.com. What is a stay of execution? So a stay of execution is granted by the courts and is pretty much saying that Zane Floyd cannot be executed until a certain day. Normally there's 60 day stay of executions. But in this case, His date of execution is until October 25th, 2021. And the state of Nevada is appealing that state of execution to the next highest court. I didn't see who. It was the District Court of Nevada that granted the state of execution. So what the state can do is appeal that to the District Court of Nevada Appeals Division, and have them either overrule or affirm the stay, and then it can further be appealed to the Court of Appeals, which would be the Ninth Circuit. And then again, that can further get appealed to the Supreme Court of the United States. But in recent times, 9 times out of 10, the Supreme Court of the United States has been denying the writ of certiorari, meaning that they will not look at the case. So stay of execution just means they cannot be executed until after a certain date. In this case, it's October 25th. Okay, so I'm not seeing any more questions. So if you have any questions that were not answered or haven't thought about them yet, you can send them to us at theydidwhatnowpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of They Did What Now. Our podcast, season 1 of our podcast is out now. We're just kind of rehashing those episodes that you can hear on those podcasts if you don't want to wait for another one that we would share. So thank you for tuning in.